question is about the state of Taylor Square, which I think is critically important for Oxford Street because it's a part of why Oxford Street is no longer fashionable. It's been made ugly by a very badly botched renovation. And Clovermore has now been in power for 15 years plus, 17 years. And I was wondering if there are any plans from any of the candidates to fix this badly botched renovation. I think that if Taylor Square is either fashionable or out of fashion, it is a place that people can choose to go or they can go somewhere else. And if you leave something so badly done as this stripy pavement, the screws as bollards, all sorts of strange things have happened with that renovation. If you've left it in place, which you haven't done in other places in the city, let's be fair, you've actually gone and improved a number of botched renovations around the city. You've replaced libraries, you've replaced a swimming pool, you've gone everywhere else. You're very promoting of what you've done all over the city. But here in the centre of the gay community, in the most important place in the whole of on the inner east, you have left in place a disastrous renovation.
Okay, thank you. Anyone like to take this one up? Taylor Square.
I'm okay. Tech drives me nuts. So thank you very much for that, and I think to keep it very short for all the candidates, and I suspect we're going to have another consensus here. In the 9 years that I've been on council is very great. All the planning that comes through, all the renovations that come through, whether they're for the laneways or whatever, it's keeping everything looking the same. If you wear a small business hat like me, you want to have a point of difference for your customers, right? And this area deserves a point of difference. It deserves not only to be renovated in a way that promotes the amenity, keeps people here happy where they are in the locale, but invites people in too, because you need that vibrancy of a local economy to thrive to get everything else happening. It has been a matter of neglect. I'm ashamed to say that I've been part of a council that's done that. Not decisions I had any control over, unfortunately. There is a different majority, but we have neglected it. In terms of heritage, they call that demolition by neglect. You leave it so long that then there's no other choice but to demolish it and not have anything left of what it once was. It does need to change. We should have a plan to renovate the entire area so that it's sympathetic and the way you want it, not the way our planners and decorators think it should look, so it mimics another road down the street in the CBD, which has nothing to do with how this area should be.
Thank you. Look, I think Taylor Square is so important, and there's some really exciting things coming for Taylor Square. There's a great plan that the National Arts School have to reinvigorate the courthouse precinct and the Darlinghurst Jail. But I also think it's important we acknowledge that this isn't necessarily a great place to be outdoors sometimes. So one of the things that we want to do is to calm the traffic. We've advocated for electric buses to take the noise and the pollution off the street. We've got a cycleway that we're working on 3 levels of government with to calm the north side of Oxford Street. And if you look at, there are places like Cafe Frida's just across the way that are going off all the time because there is life and energy in those parts of Oxford Street. But what they need is just a bit more of that traffic to be removed and for more calming to take place in this area.
Who's next? Yes. And over here, and then the question to, so I think
I think we want to answer that.
oh yes, what I'm saying is candidates, and then a question to Michael and a question to Black Mask.
I think because Taylor Square is so important and integral part of the square, I think we should give
Yes.
all day.
Taylor Square, Whitlam Square and 3 Saints Square are all extremely... Right, there we go, is that better? Taylor Square, Whitlam Square, 3 Saints Square, all extremely important for the future of Oxford Street. Sydney Labor very committed to funding upgrades of these 3 really important areas in the first term of council, if elected Lord Mayor. I tried on several occasions to do things about Oxford Street, including Whitlam Square, almost the windiest place in Sydney. The Lord Mayor removed the signs and stopped referring to it as Whitlam Square.
Yeah, exactly. Who hasn't spoken?
Sean and I.
Does this work?
Yep.
Yeah, I agree 100% about Taylor Square, and I hate to say this, but I think that the Lord Mayor takes the LGBTQI plus community for granted. You know, the fact that she isn't even here, I'm sorry, Jess Scully, but there's an election coming up and she's not here. You know,
That's not true. That's not true. Sorry, that's not
$100
true.
million as well.
Apologies, opinion.
Well, your candidate's not here either. Why is he welcome here?
Thank you. We don't need any interjections from you, Galbraith.
Thank you. But I think also too, when it comes to Taylor Square, something that we are pushing for is that we have a rainbow advisory committee. So I think it's really important that the locals decide what goes on with this area. So if we were elected, we would ask the advisory committee to look into improving Taylor Square because it's a disaster, and putting some money into it.
Sydney Liberals, when they get on council, we're going to mix the place up. We're actually going to have some energy and we're going to have focus on the people of the City of Sydney, not the planners, not the staff, not the advertising that comes out once a month. We will actually use our energy, our networks with the state government to ensure that all of these issues come up and something is done. No promises. We will make sure that the energy is there and the diversity is there, if you vote us onto council, of course, to make sure that all of these sorts of issues are addressed and worked through, not planned upon planned upon planned.
Sorry, are we quick? I always feel like we're at the end after the heckles. Look, I think I want to come back to this idea of living heritage as well. We talk about placemaking, but as a space that is residential and cultural, I mean, I mostly use that square because I come to protest there at the moment. That's what I've been doing during the lockdowns. But I remember, for example, that when we were, after the lockouts happened and a whole bunch of unfriendly people flooded into Newtown, and people came and started harassing people, particularly people who were LGBTIQ+, because it was a friendly place to be. And the way the community responded was that the Business Association and Jenny as the local MP and those of us on Marrickville Council and the City of Sydney Council and the COPs actually, it was an interesting roundtable, got together and said, what does it mean? You guys are the experts in how you use this space and how you own it. We will work with you and bring our institutional power to make sure that we reclaim this space. Doing something like that alongside what the plans around how you change this street, and it is going through this rejuvenation no matter what, there is that process, making sure it goes the right way. But I'm really interested to keep talking about what it means and things we can do right now that don't require a 2-year planning process as well, because I think that's a really important part of shaping how it's going to be, what the culture is here.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a microphone afterwards. The next question is to Michael, then Black Mask, then this man here.
I just thought I might add to the last theme on Taylor Square, and with 5 very simple propositions.
Questions?
We might all agree on.
Questions?
Is it a question, Michael?
It needs to be a question.
Well, would you support the following? Yes. Because I recently read, Johnny showed me the Lord Mayor's social place strategy for Taylor Square, and I thought it really did add up. But let's make it real, and make it real, first of all, by suspending the tower options, which are currently being floated. Secondly, to conduct a review of appropriate planning controls based on an informed consultation process, not a dumb survey monkey which steers us.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
You know, no.
Please keep the question.
Third, to ensure the LGBTQI character of Taylor Square in the precinct with the proposed museum, and maybe to be named the Michael Kirby Centre, and to ensure, as Sean's called for also, a safe haven suicide prevention and wellness centre is included within the community centre. And lastly, I thought really, in response to your concern for the appearance of Taylor Square, I think it's time to call for an architectural competition to reconceive Taylor Square within the heritage scale and character of the neighbourhood as a convivial meeting place for the neighbourhood,
Thank you.
a destination for visitors.
So Michael,
Thank
is your question to us, would we support
Yes,
that?
would you
I'm
support
happy
I
to say
think that
yes.
generally,
I'm keeping it short.
do you
Yes.
support a planning initiative of a design for the square in the context of the square?
All 5 points that Michael mentioned. For me, it's a yes.
Thank you. And a question to Blake Mask. Sorry.
Did Jess Scully answer that?
I don't think so.
Did you answer that, Jess?
I'm saying you mentioned cleaning up Oxford Street, and as a local resident, I'm a #1 supporter of the local businesses around here. Why have a number of bins been removed because they're perceived as ugly? Every time you walk down the street, there is rubbish everywhere. Will there be more clean up to get rid of the bird shit, to get rid of the rubbish? The day after a weekend, why will there be more focus on the shop fronts and fixing that appeal before then putting height above buildings where the bottom looks like crap? Right, focus on there to maybe get the appeal, to get the public, for all of you, to want to be in the area rather than focusing on the top. Let's focus on the
Question
bottom.
of services in terms of cleansing generally.
Well, I just want to clear that up. There's two important points that you've raised there. So one is around the removal of the bin. So we have a 20-year street furniture contract. It's a really important contract for the city because it actually provides all of the street furniture for free so the taxpayers don't spend and ratepayers don't spend any money for us to get new furniture, and it means we get advertising revenue from the new bus shelters, for example. So they're all being replaced at the moment. Those bins were taken out. There should be temporary bins available, and I have followed up with staff and made sure we had temporary bins in places where they have gone missing. But they're all being replaced and we'll have new street furniture. So that's really important. That's the first question. But on your second point, which is about, why add to the top when we're really focused on the street front? What we're talking about here is we've got heritage buildings that are expensive to maintain and to make beautiful and to make functional for the needs that need to be carried out there, whether it's creative businesses, office space, co-working space, retail, you name it.
That's 1 minute.
So what we want to do is actually create an incentive, and that means, so for the owner, it's worth spending money so that they improve the ground floor and the whole building.
Okay,
That's
thank
the
you, Jess.
intention.
The question of cleansing, I think, is a perennial issue.
Thanks.
We'll have to continue just generally on this issue of service delivery and waste generally in the area, because you're intensifying it under proposal.
It's a key priority for Labor. The current Lord Mayor outsourced all the waste collection, so it used to be done by our staff. They'd come and clean every day and pick up the rubbish. Now it's outsourced. I was the only councillor on the current council to vote against that. We've committed to a review to bring it back in-house and to improve the quality of the street cleaning and the waste collection. Unfortunately, the Lord Mayor couldn't reach agreement about the street furniture contract. That's why we've had to outlay $220 million of public money to replace one kind of bin with another kind of bin and have more advertising on the street. It's very disappointing.
The advertising contract was inherited to begin with, but can we continue on the question, because it's already 10 to 4 and there's only 40 minutes left. So if the meeting is to actually get together on 3 solid issues of motion, I think we need to continue. But is there any further general issue on the question? Thank you.
Thank you. So in terms of rubbish and waste, it's just poor, crappy management by council that has allowed that to happen. I've got a piece of vomit on a footpath that I've had circled and dated for the past 6 months, and I ask every day, why isn't that cleaned? And so there is no excuse.
That's why Oxford Street's listed.
There is no excuse. It's
I think there's a great deal with
execution
that.
and
If we could
operation
just
of
finish
management,
the
and the
issue
fish
of
is rotten from the head down.
the service delivery and waste delivery generally.
Helena, I just wish it were just Oxford Street that was disgusting. It's the whole LGA which is disgusting. I live in Redfern and it is repulsive. I have a drain outside my house and I've called the City of Sydney numerous occasions. I keep on getting reference numbers. I don't know where they go to. So I agree 100% with what Linda has to say about outsourcing the contract for garbage collection and cleaning the streets. But you can't outsource responsibility, right? We need the streets to be clean. That's one of the basic things City of Sydney needs to do, and they're not doing it.
There's money in the budget. It's going to the top end of town, not down to the
Okay, please, no feedback from, we know the issues, and this is a perennial issue as well.
I welcome feedback. Thank you. I think it's fine. I think you should go.
It should be by question.
It's going to the top end of town, I've seen it.
100%.
Yeah.
Would
So
anyone like
just-
to add to the issue
I
from
think
the candidate?
Waste is also one of our biggest sources of emissions for the whole city, and one of the reasons we support in-housing services is because we have quite an uncertain future. The challenges we have with more people living in the city and more waste will also be around how our cities will be hotter and stickier. And to be able to manage those things in the future, not just now, we need to make sure that those services are council run and that then we're not locked into contracts with private providers that are really hard to change when our needs change. So that's a key part, we think, of the solution to some of these challenges for council moving forward.
And I have exactly the same sentiments. Councils are about residents, roads, rates and rubbish. And we need to have them in-house and we need to be responsible for what goes on. And it's also far more fiscally responsible to do things in-house and to contract them out.
Given the time and the other 2 points that are on this topic, unless there's anything more to add, I think we've had every candidate on the planning and okay, these are very perennial issues, the cleansing and the development. But the issue of the question of the gay nature of this has been strange, and the two issues that we've looked at, the second and third motion, relate to the creative aspect of this proposal. And it curiously includes sex and other sex on premises issues, which, as somebody has pointed out earlier, have been one of the reasons why Oxford Street's flourished. So the question of what kind of creative we have are the next 2 points, which I think will then go specifically back to the DCP, which this is very much about.
So, ladies and gentlemen, what we have here, again, tēnā koutou, people who have arrived just now, welcome, welcome. You have 2 documents in blue in front of you. One has got writing on both pages, that's the agenda. You have a second document with writing on just 1 page, and these are the 3 motions that very soon I will be moving for the meeting to hopefully vote on and endorse. So thank you, the Labor candidate Linda Scott, who has to leave. She did tell me before the meeting started that she needed to leave early because of another commitment with constituents. So on behalf of the meeting, I thank Linda Scott, who did tell me before the meeting started she had to leave early because of a meeting with constituents. Thank you. So we have items 2 and 3 on the agenda: cultural, creative, and precinct, and heritage precinct. And then number 3, North Taylor Square. North Taylor Square is out the window there, ladies and gentlemen. That was where the original 78ers were. That's where LQBTQI rights started in New South Wales, and for that matter, leading in New Zealand as well. So the city proposes various plans that you see in the document there in front of you. Why not support culture, creativity and heritage anyway, without that being tied to height increases, without that being tied to new developers along the strip? And then question number 3, North Taylor Square, the Rainbow Plus capital of Australia. Kirby supports a Rainbow Plus centre. The Liberal government Minister of Mental Health, Taylor, supports wellness and suicide prevention safe havens. The documentation that the City of Sydney has provided in relation to the Ash Morgan development right next door to this building actually and literally excludes reference to Rainbow Plus. So the question is, how can North Taylor Square, Rainbow Plus and local communities continue with developers putting new traffic all the way through up onto North Taylor Square, which is just where the Michael Kirby Centre could be. So questions 2 and 3, we'll treat them as one question. We're running out of time. So one question, 2 and 3 on the second page of the 2-page document, please.
Before we go to the candidate's response, could I just ask the spokesperson for what we've called North Taylor Square on this, which is the possibility of the Kirby Centre moving to a space in Taylor Square, because that comes together some of the themes we've had today, which is Taylor Square, the culture creative, and the fact that the LGBTQ community. Johnny, thank you.
Thank you, John. I'm Johnny Allen, and I'm part of the Utopia Sydney project, which is setting out to establish a pre-museum and celebration space so that we can forever remember and celebrate both the downside and the plus sides of our queer community. My point, I guess, goes to point 3 on that agenda, which is that in just 14 months' time, Sydney will be hosting World Pride, a major organisation which will bring several 100,000 people to the city and put the global focus on Oxford Street, Taylor Square and Sydney's history. I am concerned, as I think are many people in the Utopia group and many others, this is the largest event that Sydney will have hosted since the Sydney Olympics. For the Sydney Olympics, the state government and the city council came together to present Sydney at its best light to the world, and did so quite successfully. I'm concerned that at the moment, when the world comes here for World Pride, the Ashmorgan site will be a
That's 1 minute.
construction site. Most of what we're talking about will not take place. So my question to the panel is, what can we do in this 14 months to show Sydney in its best light to the rest of the world?
Keep it to a 4-minute response for all of you, so keep your comments.
You mean 4 minutes in total, not 4
Yeah,
minutes each?
4 to 5 minutes in total. We really want these issues, our council can, because they entail state government as well, which you're not running for. All right, 1 minute each. The movement has come from the floor. 1 minute per candidate.
Johnny, I think the Utopia proposal is a really exciting one. I think there's an enormous amount of goodwill and opportunity, and it's on the books of council since 2014 to support any community move to establish the centre. But even if you look at the Victorian Pride Centre, as we've spoken about before, this is something that's initiated from and driven by the community and then is supported by levels of government. That is the essence of it, to get something that is culturally appropriate, that has the right mix of joy, celebration, and remembering that needs to be done here. So what I think the community needs to do is to work together to formalise the approach, to look at opportunities with landowners, to take advantage of the opportunity, and to be ready to celebrate and to have at least a prototype, I think, of the centre ready to go for World Pride. World Pride is so important, and Utopia is one of the organisations the Lord Mayor has asked the city staff to work with in putting together the city's first LQBTQI strategy for the street, and that's something that's modelled on the San Francisco strategy.
Thank you, Jess.
In the 9 years that I've been in council, I come up against brick walls all the time. And those brick walls, I think, is just the way that I approach things as a business owner. And when I hear of issues such as the community would like a Pride museum, and for me, my instant result is, okay, so why not? And to join the dots there, it has been always put forward at council. We are constantly told that it has to be a community-driven initiative. Now, we know that every community struggles to pull these things together. It's a big ask. It's a full-time job. People aren't paid to do it. They have other parts of their lives to do. I think the main thing here that council should understand is we get approached by lots of different community groups to want a museum in order to keep their historic and heritage value. We should be establishing a fund, a grants fund, where organisations can come together, get that money, get an organisation off the ground where people are paid full time to work on projects to make them happen. We can't keep relying on the community to just spend their lives pulling these together. That's what we need to do.
Thank you.
14 months, Johnny, with government.
Thank you, Ashley.
14 months, we've had 17 years, so I don't think it's going to happen in 14 months, to be really honest. I think, it's putting 2 more extra stories on the building's not going to work. There's lots of free space on the street right now. We don't need to put another 2 stories up the top. What we need genuine commitment and genuine funding. The local businesses that sustain Oxford Street, that have stuck it out, need our support because they haven't got it.
Thank you.
So, that's what we need to do to make it happen.
Thanks. Yeah, I think one of the exciting things about the City of Sydney Council is the scale of resources that it has, and it has a lot of amazing staff, and it has the capacity. For example, there's no reason why the city couldn't commit to be working with to find a permanent space and make it available, and also have pop-up spaces and to be developing things right now. And it's an enormous commercial property portfolio, a huge property owner on this street. I think it can be a problem to say this 5-year away thing, wait till you've got your 12,000 plans. One of the reasons we're running is to say we need a more grassroots council is because sometimes you just have to get in and do things in partnership with the community, and this city has so much more potential to do that. That's what we'd like to see.
Yeah.
And as a Liberal, I'll echo the sentiments of the last two candidates for Lord Mayor. We have a very wealthy council. We have a community of people who want to get things done, and we want the community to do what they want to do. And what it is the community wants to do is determined by the community, not by bureaucrats sitting up in town hall deciding what's best for us. So let's go ahead and get on with enlivening Oxford Street, and you decide what you want in Oxford Street, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then you go away and try something else again.
Thank you. There are the two issues. The first motion, which is general points there, the second and the third motion. Is there anything that would like to be added to, or something that the meeting would like to put forward? Sean.
So the next step then is this, friends. The next step is this. You have the two-page document. We're now on question matters 2 and 3 on the second of the 2-page document. So are there any questions from the floor on topics 2 and 3 of the 2-page document? If there are no more questions for the panel on the second page of the 2-page document, we will then move to the 1-page document, which has 3 proposed motions. So again, you have in front of you two documents. One is of 2 pages, that's the agenda. The other one is a 1-page document that has a number of motions that I now do as convener formally move. So maybe some time to look at the 1-page document with some draft-only resolutions.
Should I speak to them, Sean? I'll give you a couple of minutes. And then people want to speak against it?
Again, Tēnā koutou, I formally move the motions in the 1-page document. Overall strategy, cutting a long story short, there needs to be ground-up input from all in the community, business, Rainbow Plus, heritage, creatives. I live in Foley Street, which is right behind us. The plan from Ashmorgan Toga is to put up in front of us a wall of concrete that, number 1, takes the sun away. Number 2, and this is why I organised this meeting, number 2, there's a toddler who lives in our street whose bedroom faces the street, and this Ashmorgan Toga development means that absolute random strangers will be looking into this little girl's bedroom. It may sound like nothing to you, but that's the one thing that made me think, why is this happening? Why does no one know? And why even up to this very moment that I started here today, are people asking me, well, how many floors?
3.
How many floors? What's this all about? Is it really 10 stories on Taylor Square? What's happening to creatives? How come the council document that I have here that refers to the Ashmorgan Toga development next door and goes 3 blocks all the way down towards the city, how come LGBTQI plus is not mentioned once? How come LGBTQI plus is not mentioned once? Anybody who wants to look for the evidence, the documents are here. These are official council documents. Why is Rainbow Plus now being made invisible?
It's only used in election time.
So members, ladies and gentlemen, I'm used to addressing juries. second one, cultural and creative and heritage, that speaks for itself. And the third one on this page, LQBTQI, there's a serious case for this being a lived space for Rainbow Plus people who come here because there's nowhere else in their communities where they feel safe. And the other thing about Rainbow Plus is it also happens to be good for business. The Mardi Gras situation involves $20 to $40 to $60 million spent in the 2 weeks before and after, 400,000 people watching the parade. That happens to also be good for business, and it does what I want to see happen, which is innovating all of Oxford Street from the ground up. So I formally move these three resolutions.
Do we have a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you. Anyone speak for or speak against? No. Should we, with the motion, would the meeting like to pass this as an indication of a part of the community's concern about these issues? Johnny, would you like to move this as a?
Yes, I'm happy.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that these 3 points rest as a motion of the concern of this meeting on Oxford Street's proposal. Can I put that to a vote? All those in favour?
Aye.
All those against? So carried. With that very good sense of some achievement, I'd like to thank you for your time here, and I particularly would like to thank the candidates for putting their time forward to be part of the community, and thank you for your service already in that position. And thank you, the fact that you've got 2 really hard weeks in front of you because the elections are Saturday fortnight, so please.
Pre-polls tomorrow.
Oh, pre-poll, indeed. I shall be there if you're at the rec centre anywhere between 11 and 1, if you'd like to chat. But yes, the pre-poll, I forgot, opens at a number of centres, which is on the website, and you can vote early. The election is on the 4th, which is in Saturday week. And again, the candidates would be very busy, and I'm sure they'd like to have time to talk with you. The bar is available and open. Yes, excuse me. So please, thank you very much for your time for coming out. And